Ladies, let's talk about one of the most surprising reactions a man can have. Not while you're chasing him, apology has been. Not while you're texting him good morning or showing up for him in every way. But after you walk away, that's when he starts to fall hard. When you walk away from a man, something shifts. Not just in the dynamic between you two, but inside of him. He begins to feel the weight of your absence in ways he never anticipated. While you were consistently present, texting, checking in, showing up, he may have taken that for granted. But your silence, your calm withdrawal, speaks louder than any argument could. Suddenly, what was once easily accessible becomes distant, and that loss begins to sting. He feels it in moments where he used to lean on your attention, in the comfort that once came from knowing you were always there. Men are wired to chase what they no longer have. When you step away, it flips a switch in his mind. It triggers a need to pursue, to figure out why the certainty he once had is now gone. Your disappearance creates a vacuum, one he instinctively wants to fill. But more than that, he starts questioning himself. Why didn't he try harder? Why did he dismiss your efforts? Now, all the things he barely noticed before. Your laughter has been, your patience, your presence, start to loop in his mind. You've gone from being familiar to being a mystery again, and that mystery pulls him in deeper than ever. What really gets to him is that you didn't beg, you didn't cry to be seen or heard. You left with grace, with your head held high. That level of self-respect is rare, and he sees it now. You stopped feeding his ego, and in doing so, made him realize how dependent he was on the validation he got from you. He may try to fill the gap quickly, with distractions, with other people, but they don't hold the same space. They don't offer the warmth, the energy, the understanding you gave. And that's when it starts to hick. You're not just gone. You're irreplaceable. And while he's busy realizing all this, you're rising. You're glowing, shifting your focus back to your own life, leveling up in ways he didn't expect. That growth becomes undeniable, and in watching it from afar, he falls even harder. Because now, regret sets in. He doesn't just miss you. He regrets not valuing you when he had the chance. The love you gave, the patience you showed, the loyalty you offered, all of it feels different now. More valuable, priceless. But he's no longer invited to experience it because you already made the most powerful move of all along. You walked away. When you walk away from a man, something primal wakes up inside him. He's no longer responding with logic or calm thinking. He's reacting to a sudden void. There's something deep in his instincts that's triggered by loss, especially when that loss feels unexpected. The moment you're no longer easily available or emotionally present, he feels it like a jolt. You were once someone he could predict, someone who answered the phone, replied to his messages, and gave him a sense of comfort. But when you remove yourself, that sense of comfort disappears, and with it, his sense of control. This shift makes him start chasing, often without fully understanding why. It's not just about wanting you back. It's about needing to resolve the tension that your absence has created in his mind. He begins to replay moments, wonder where things went wrong, and question whether he underestimated you. What used to be predictable is now a mystery again. You've become someone he can't read, can't reach, and can't influence like before. That unpredictability makes you more desirable, has been. Because now you're not someone he's sure of. Now you're someone he wants to figure out all over again. The emotional pull becomes stronger as time passes. He remembers your presence, not just physically, but emotionally. The way you supported him, how you listened, how you made him feel important. Those memories grow louder in your silence. And the silence itself becomes powerful because you're not reaching out to explain yourself or make things easier for him. You're allowing the space to speak. And in that space, he realizes how much of his world was built around you being there, quietly offering your loyalty and care. He didn't see it then, but your exit makes it impossible to ignore. Eventually, this builds into something deeper. It's not just attraction or curiosity anymore. It's regret. He falls hard because he finally understands the depth of what he had. He sees your value in a way he never did while you were close. And by the time he's emotionally invested, by the time he wants to rebuild, it may be too late. You've grown, moved forward, has been, and proved to yourself that you didn't need to stay to be worthy. And in that quiet strength, he sees the version of you he now wishes he fought to keep. Your silence speaks louder than any words you could have said. When you don't scream, don't beg, and don't explain your every emotion, it creates an echo he can't ignore. You simply walk away, calmly and quietly, and that silence haunts him. He's left alone with his own thoughts, with no reassurance, no comfort, no familiar voice to lean on. It's in that quiet space where his mind starts racing, questioning everything he did or didn't do. Your absence becomes a mirror, showing him the reflection of his own behavior and the role he played in losing someone who never asked for too much. Just consistency and respect. In that silence, there is power. It sends a message that you no longer need to be heard to be understood. You're not trying to fix things, not trying to prove your worth. And that unsettles him more than any confrontation ever could. It shows strength, emotional strength, that many people struggle to find. When you choose silence over drama, you shift the energy. He begins to realize that your peace was more important to you than holding on to someone who couldn't meet your needs. And that truth begins to grow in his mind like a seed of regret. He starts to remember all the moments where you let things slide, where you gave him grace, where you stayed quiet even when you were hurting, because you hoped he'd get it without having to be told. But now, your silence isn't passive. It's deliberate. It's a boundary. And boundaries demand respect. He starts to see that your love wasn't loud, but it was real. And the fact that you didn't try to make him feel guilty makes him even worse. Because deep down, he knows you walked away not to punish him, but to protect yourself. That's what makes him fall hard. It's not just that he misses you. It's that he realizes you didn't fight to stay. You simply decided he wasn't fighting for you. And now, in the quiet aftermath, he sees everything clearly once the apology has been. He sees that your silence was the loudest goodbye he'll ever hear. You stopped feeding his ego the moment you walked away. When you were there, he was used to a steady stream of validation. Your compliments, your attention, the apology has been your willingness to be present for him even when he wasn't fully showing up for you. He didn't realize how much of his emotional comfort came from your quiet support. You made him feel important, even on the days when he didn't deserve it. And because that support was so consistent, he began to believe it would always be there, that no matter how distant or distracted he became, you would continue pouring into him. But then the energy shifted. You didn't announce it with a speech or threaten to leave. You simply stopped. You stopped trying to win him over, stopped making excuses for him, and stopped investing in someone who wasn't investing back. At first, he may not have noticed. He might have thought you were just having a bad day or giving him space. But eventually, the emptiness settled in. That constant reassurance you used to give disappeared, and in its place was silence. Firm, clear, and unbothered. He was no longer being emotionally fed by your presence, and that hit harder than he expected. Without your attention fueling his confidence, he began to feel unsteady. The man who once seemed sure of himself now questions why he feels off balance. He might not admit it, but he starts missing your words, your warmth, your presence. He starts realizing that what you gave him wasn't just affection. It was a quiet kind of strength he leaned on more than he knew. And now that it's gone, he sees just how much of his confidence came from being loved by you, even when he didn't return it the same way. That's why he starts falling hard after you walk away. Because it's no longer about wanting you just for the sake of having someone. It's about craving the emotional security that only you gave him. He misses how you made him feel like he mattered, like he was enough. And in your absence, he understands that his ego was being nurtured by something real. Not flattery, not empty praise, but the genuine, steady care of someone who truly saw him. And now he realizes what he lost wasn't attention, it was love. When you were always there, always reachable, there was no mystery. He knew what you were doing, how you felt, and where he stood with you. That certainty made him feel in control, even if he didn't fully appreciate it. But the moment you walked away and stopped sharing the details of your life, things changed. Suddenly, the predictable rhythm between you disappeared, and he was left with silence. He started to wonder, not just what you were doing, apology has been, but who you might be with and whether you were thinking about him at all. That quiet distance created a mental loop he couldn't escape. Curiosity turns into obsession when there's no closure. And, in your case, you didn't leave with a dramatic exit or a need for explanation. You simply stopped showing up. That subtle departure creates more questions than answers, and questions are what keep people up at night. He starts replaying the last few conversations, analyzing your tone, remembering the look in your eyes, trying to decode what he missed. It's no longer about what actually happened. It's about the story he's now building in his head, and with every passing day, that story grows more intense. What makes it worse for him is that he doesn't know where he stands anymore. Before, even if things were rocky, he had a sense of your emotions. He could feel your love, even in frustration. Now, all of that is gone. You're out of reach, emotionally and physically. That mystery, that unknown, is what draws him in harder than ever. It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about the natural effect of creating space and choosing your peace. That unknown creates gravity, pulling his thoughts back to you again and again. In the quiet, your absence speaks louder than presence ever could, and that uncertainty begins to torment him. He wonders if you've moved on, if someone else is making you smile the way he used to. He imagines you laughing without him, building a life he's no longer part of. That imagined reality, even if it's not true, fuels his desire to have you back. But by now, you've become a mystery he can't solve, apology has been. And that mystery is the very thing that makes him fall even harder than before. When you were present in his life, he got used to your kindness. He saw your care as normal, your patience as expected, and your loyalty as something that would never leave. You were consistent in showing up, and has been, in being there through his good moods and his silence, has been. But the very consistency that made you valuable also made you invisible in his eyes. He thought he had time. He thought you'd always be around, always understanding, always forgiving. It wasn't until you pulled that presence away that he began to realize just how much of his emotional security came from the quiet way you loved him. Distance has a way of forcing reflection. With no more texts, no more check-ins, no more quiet support, he's left alone with the space you used to fill. And in that space, clarity begins to form. He starts to remember the little things. The way you listened without judgment, the way you celebrated his wins, even when you weren't feeling your best, the way you offered comfort when he barely asked. These memories come back with weight because there's nothing new from you to cover them. They stand out now, bright and painful, reminding him of the value he overlooked. He starts to see that what you gave him wasn't ordinary. It was rare. Not everyone shows up the way you did. Not everyone holds space, offers support, gives warmth without constantly needing it back. Has been. He realizes that you didn't ask for too much. You simply gave more than he ever took the time to appreciate. Your energy was something that lifted even when he didn't know he needed lifting. And now that it's gone, he feels the absence like a shadow over everything. The people he turns to now might offer attention, but not death. Not what you brought. What hurts the most for him is knowing he didn't lose you because you stopped caring. He lost you because he didn't recognize your value when it mattered. Now, with the distance growing, he sees it also clearly. He sees that what you gave wasn't common, and it certainly wasn't guaranteed. And that realization cuts deep because it's not just about losing a connection. It's about losing someone who truly saw him, believed in him, and stood by him. Has been. And now that you're gone, he's left wishing he had seen it all before it slipped through his fingers. Most people hold on tightly when they feel something slipping away. They panic, they plead, they chase, because the fear of losing someone is stronger than their sense of self-worth in that moment. But you didn't do that. Has been. You didn't beg him to stay. You didn't try to convince him of your value. And you didn't lower your standards just to keep the connection alive. Instead, you let go, calmly, with self-respect. And that quiet strength left a lasting impression on him. It showed him that you are not afraid to lose someone who isn't afraid to lose you. Then, that realization shakes him more than any emotional outburst ever could. Because in a world where people often fight to be seen or heard, you did the opposite. You chose peace over chaos You chose yourself over convincing someone to choose you. And that kind of strength is rare. It makes a man stop and think. He begins to wonder how you can walk away so effortlessly, how you can detach with so much grace, and it makes him see you in a completely different light, not as someone who is desperate for love, but as someone who knows they deserve it without having to prove it. The moment you stopped fighting for him, you started glowing in his eyes. Suddenly, you weren't the woman trying to hold it together. You were the woman who realized she didn't need to anymore. You were no longer reacting to his choices. You were making your own. And that power, that quiet confidence, is what makes him fall harder. He sees now that you are not someone who clings to uncertainty or settles for half-hearted effort. You are someone who can walk away from what doesn't grow you, and that makes you unforgettable. In hindsight, he starts to connect the dots. He realizes that while he was unsure, distracted, or distant has been, you were observing and waiting. Not to be chosen, but to decide for yourself if it was worth staying. And when it no longer was, you didn't cause a scene. You simply exited. That choice hits him in waves long after you've gone. Because what haunts a man the most isn't a woman who screamed for his attention. It's the one who gave him silence and left him to wonder why he couldn't hold on to someone who had every reason to stay, but chose not to. After you walk away, he may try to convince himself that he's fine. He might distract himself with friends, keep himself busy, or even start talking to other people. At first, it seems like he's moving on easily, like your absence didn't really shake him. But underneath the surface, something deeper is happening once the apology has been. The connection he had with you starts to stand out in contrast to everything else. He begins to notice that the conversations he's having now lack the depth and ease he felt with you. The comfort, the inside jokes, the way you understood him without needing many words. It's missing. No matter how many people he surrounds himself with, there's an emptiness that lingers. He tries to find your energy in others, but it's not there. Maybe they're kind or interesting, but they're not you. They don't laugh like you did. They don't challenge him in the same way, and they don't make him feel fully seen. Slowly, he begins to understand that the connection he had with you wasn't ordinary. It was something rare, something he assumed he could find again whenever he wanted, but now realizes may not be so easy to replace. As more time passes, the differences become sharper. He remembers how you paid attention to the little things, how you knew what he needed even when he didn't ask, how your presence made him feel grounded. And when he tries to recreate that with someone new, it doesn't land the same way. He finds himself comparing even when he doesn't want to. And in those quiet moments, when no one else is around to distract him, the truth starts to settle in. What he had with you was not something that can be copied or replaced. It was unique because of who you are. That's when it really starts to hit. Not just the loss of a relationship, but the realization that he let go of something he may never find again. He thought you were just another chapter, but now he sees you were the turning point. And the more he tries to move on, the more he circles back to that truth. You were never someone who could be replaced. You were someone he should have held onto when he had the chance. Apology has been. And now that you're gone, all he's left with is the echo of what he didn't fully appreciate until it was too late. After you walk away, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to grow. The energy you once poured into trying to make things work is now redirected inward. You begin to invest in yourself, your peace, then your goals, and your happiness. There's a lightness in your presence that wasn't there before, not because you didn't have it, but because it was weighed down by someone who couldn't fully see or appreciate it. Now, free from that emotional weight, you begin to glow in ways that are hard to ignore. People start to notice, including him, and that quiet transformation speaks volumes. He watches from a distance, whether through social media, mutual friends, or just the silence that makes him imagine your life without him. At first, it might have seemed like you were just trying to move on. But soon, he realizes it's not an act. It's real. You're not pretending to be okay. You are okay. You're laughing more, creating more, becoming more. And with every step you take forward, it becomes clear to him that your life didn't fall apart when he left it. It actually started to bloom. This realization begins to shift something in him. He no longer sees you as the woman who needed him. He sees you as the woman who discovered she never did. That image stays with him, lingering in his thoughts when he least expects it. Because while he may be stuck replaying the past, you've already started building a better future. And the contrast between your movement and his stagnancy is undeniable. He starts to fall, not just because he misses you, but because he now understands the strength you carry, and it humbles him. What makes him fall even harder is that he can't take credit for your growth. He wasn't the one who encouraged it, nurtured it, or walked beside you through it. You did it without him. You evolved not as a reaction to his absence, but as a decision rooted in self-worth. And that kind of growth, authentic, powerful, and independent, is the most attractive kind of change. It turns the one who left into the one left behind, has you watching from afar as you become everything he didn't realize he wanted until he could no longer reach it. At first, he brushes it off. He tells himself you'll come back, that this is just space, that you're emotional or overreacting. He believes you'll text again, that one day soon your name will pop up on his phone, just like before. There's a confidence in his denial, a belief that the connection you shared was strong enough to survive his mistakes. But as the days go by and the silence stretches longer, that confidence begins to fade. The realization starts to creep in slowly, catching him off guard when he least expects it. During a song, a quiet night, or a memory he can't shake. Soon, that denial turns into confusion. He starts to question how he got here. He replays conversations in his head, trying to pinpoint the exact moment things changed. He wonders if it was something he said, something he didn't say, or a moment when he should have chosen you but didn't. The confusion comes from the fact that, in his mind, he didn't expect to lose you. He thought there would always be another chance, another message, another way to make things right. But now, faced with the reality that you're no longer waiting, he begins to understand that the choice was already made, and not by him. As time passes, the confusion settles into something heavier, regret. The deep, aching kind that doesn't go away with distractions or temporary fixes. He starts to see everything clearly. The way you cared once the apology has been, the things you tolerated, the love you offered without asking for much in return. And he realizes he didn't just lose someone who loved him. He lost someone who had his back, who believed in him, who stood by him even when he was hard to love. That kind of loyalty isn't easy to find again. And now he feels the full weight of having let slip away. Regret changes how he sees everything. It's no longer about wishing you'd come back. It's about knowing he had something rare and didn't recognize it until it was gone. He sees your worth now, but it's through the lens of absence. He hears your voice in his memories, feels your energy in the silence, and understands that what he had wasn't just love. It was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of love the apology has been. And that's what makes it hurt the most. Not that you walked away has been, but that you were the best thing he had and he only realized it after you were already gone.